Hey there, Jensen Vars here. In this video I'm gonna explain and share with you how I set up Tabletop Simulator for playing role-playing games on your own. It will probably be also useful for your group games because it's a really exciting tool. You can do a lot in it, and any games you like, once you set it up, it's there for you to play with it. So if you're interested, be ready because there's gonna be a lot of information in this video. Let's get started. First, I'm gonna show you by the end of this video what will you be able to achieve if you follow the steps I do. So just to show you around, what can you do with it? For starters, you can have your hex crawl maps in tabletop simulators. On top of that, you can have like figurines with your image of your characters. Also, you can have hex tiles to be able to move and place in the locations you explore. You will be able to, with a shortcut, show them on your screen so you can highlight who's talking or who are you talking about in case you want to have an audience. You're gonna be able to roll dice quickly with a button or all the way shaking dice. What else? Drawing on your maps. You're gonna have like character sheets, how to show them on the front of the screen, how to use a magnifier tool to carefully read what's going through, among many other stuff, like for example your own PDFs open to the right side, pin them down, close them down, play with cards, show them on the screen or draw them to your hand. Plenty of it, and why not, last but not least, play those combat maps right away, measuring distances and having your miniatures take life. Do you like how it looks like? Well, it's really good and it works in practice, and there's plenty you can do. It's a bit intimidating probably, but believe me, it's really not that hard. I'm gonna explain each of these things and how you can start from scratch and how you can administrate your games so you can reuse the setups you do once you have one of them ready. Let's get on the next step. For a super quick recap, Tabletop Simulator is a game you can find on Steam. It's usually not very expensive if you get it on discount, but at whichever price you pay it, once you have it, it's yours forever. The second big thing that it has is a huge Steam workshop where you can find plenty of content you can download and reuse. Of course, be wary, there's a lot of, let's say, gray areas, but be respectful to authors, support them if you like their games, and own their products before you use them ideally. With that said, once you get into the game, you're gonna get into their main menu. What you want to do and what we're gonna start from scratch is create a single player game, and just to make it very easy for you, we're gonna start from scratch. The first things, choose one of these basic ones. You're gonna begin with this stuff, and with the mouse you can select everything and delete because we don't want any of that. There's gonna be also a tile or a board, right click on it and delete it because we're gonna start clean. And then the first thing we want to do is click objects, tables, and go for a custom rectangle table. That's going to be the background of your game. What you want to do here is load a picture so it is on the background if you like. Of course, if not, you can start with a basic one, but I recommend setting up one that's on the mood of your setting. Very first important step, for every file you choose from your system, Tabletop Simulator is going to ask you if you want it on the cloud or local. If you can, use everything on your local. My light is off. Why? Because if you do it on the cloud, it's going to be uploaded to the internet, so it's not, let's say, by principle, so correctly write unless you own the product that you're uploading. It's going to be uploaded somewhere on the Steam cloud. And if you're playing solo RPG, you don't really need the cloud. So the advantage of it is, yes, you will need a cloud upload if you're going to play with other players, because then you need that everybody on the game can load the objects that you load or the files that you load. But if you're playing solo, choose local. The next thing you need to be careful with is that every asset or file that you use in Tabletop Simulator should be in a safe folder. Like every attachment, PDFs, make sure you put them in a folder where you don't delete them, because if you accidentally delete your files later on from your system, then your game in Tabletop Simulator will no longer load. So, very first and essential step, try to use local to avoid copyright issues and so on. And second, place those files in a local, because every time the game loads, it's going to pick them up from your system. With that said, I've loaded, for example, a background image, and that's the background of my game. Another basic stuff here, you move with the WASD buttons, the camera, right click moves the camera. I'll let you explore that for yourself. What's important for me is that pressing F2 is going to enable you the drawing tool. If you press F2 again, you're gonna toggle between the different types. So learning shortcuts is critical if you want to get your games going smoother. You can also erase all drawings at once. Then you have the F7 for text tool. This is going to also be useful, but don't use this one. I'm gonna show you one later that's way better, because this one you cannot move once you set it up, and it's very, very annoying. You don't want to do this at all. So don't use the text tool from here, because I'm going to show you one better way to handle text. So F1, F2 are the only ones that you need to remember. Next, with the M, you can use the magnifier. This is going to be great to read those documents. I have remapped it to the Shift button because it's way more convenient for me to have it on the Shift button. You can do this on the Controls menu, where you can remap the magnifying to the left Shift button. The other important shortcut will be the Alt. That's gonna pop up the file on front of your game. So how you do the first very thing is how to bring your PDF books. You go to Objects and you can write down PDF, Custom PDF, you bring it, you open this browser and you go and search for it. For example, Scene Unfolding Machine. Remember, do local so it's not uploaded on the internet, and then press import. And then you'll have the PDF there. So what's important is if you press the plus button, the brackets, you can change the size of this document, adjust it to your liking. And then if you press Alt, you're gonna pop it up on your front. And the PDFs also have this button here, pop out. It's gonna stick it to the right of the screen so you can access it very easily. If you click on these arrows, you're gonna be able to scroll to the pages, but if you do it here, you can do it with the wheel button. Shortcut idea, if you press a number like 35, okay, I don't have 35 pages, but let's say 14, it goes to the page 14. If you press 4, it's gonna go to page number 4. Why is this useful? You might want to remember those special pages you have in your, you usually go through around, so you don't spend much time going back and forth. You can also as well Control C and Control V the object. So if, for example, you can have it multiple times and then just have each of the PDFs on a different page, and then you can see all of them simultaneously. What you want to learn as well is the L button. The L is for lock. What it does is avoids you from accidentally moving it or resizing it. Once it's locked, you can no longer move it, but it gives an additional advantage. First, you can draw on top now. You might want to change the color of your pencil, and with the plus and minus button, you can reduce the thickness. This is also extremely important. So for character sheets, you will be able to cross them, make lines, and even, but not yet, don't use this tool, remember, but even you can use it for text. So that will only work if you lock them down, because if you try to pencil on an unlocked object, it's going to, guess what, print behind it. With the F1, you go back to the grab tool, which is the one that you want for moving stuff around. And then once you unlock, you can move it and it's going to move with your text along. Second important thing very early on to show you, you want to go to games, save and load, and always save your games. Press save game, call it demo, whatever, and remember it's gonna save it. And each time you want to save, don't save a new one, you just click on these 3 dots over here and press overwrite. It's gonna make a new save on the same save. So remember to save, guys, that's important. Other basics, you can have a notebook up here to take notes, but recommendation number 1, Tabletop Simulator is not great for taking notes. Don't take important notes over here. Yes, if you're like, I don't know, you like my other tool, Play by the Writing, right? And you want to have some quick oracles, for example, hey, give me a prompt. And then you want to get some quick info or just quick notes before you put them in somewhere else, say for Obsidian or whatever. Why? Because it's a bit buggy you don't have any formatting, and there's likelihood that you might lose accidentally your text and never get it back again. So suggestion, write your stuff elsewhere, not in Tabletop Simulator, but you can use these notebooks here for quick notes. Next basic important thing is the player colors. Why is that important? If you click on your name over here, you're gonna be able to click change color. There are by default many players in a board, and you can take the seats of each one of them, but each component is usually from a position, and being a player helps you because later on we're gonna see when we play with cards or things that go to a hand are gonna go in the location of the player color. But you have also the color game master that can see everything. In solo role-playing games this doesn't matter much, but for the sake of it, play always with a player seat, because you're gonna be able to get cards in your hands. Game masters don't have cards in their hands, like it doesn't have this enabled card taking feature. Let's take a look at the cards now that we are talking about cards. I'm not gonna include how you upload your custom deck, but just how to use them. I'll leave you that to research because that would take me an entire video. But I did, for example, upload here my manual Game Master Apprentice cards. And with the deck, you want to hold click to move it, or just a single click to draw cards from it. And then remember, with the Alt, you can show it on 2D or use the magnifier to quickly read through the text. The next trick for cards is that if you press, for example, 3 on top of the deck, you're gonna draw 3 cards on your hand. Super useful. Why the card system is relevant? Because you can have anything you want in your hands. So the next important thing is how you deal with character sheets. The character sheets are very limited in Tabletop Simulator, but you have essentially 2 options to have them. First option, and the ideal one if you're lucky, in the workshop your system is available. So for example, I have many stuff here in the workshop, but let's say Dark Heresy. And then you right click on these 3 dots and press search. This is how you search inside a workshop content, and then you're gonna be able to see all of the stuff that this workshop system has inside, and you will look for the character sheets inside the systems you got. Sometimes they have a lot of stuff like this, but eventually you will be able to find it. It might have like cheat sheets, or what we are looking for is exactly the character sheets that might or might not be. So this is where you will spend some time like looking for whatever you're looking for. If I look, for example, for Fate Accelerated, press search, I'm gonna have the character sheets. Okay, great. This is an example of a character sheet online. You will want to rotate it with the Q and E and unlock it sometimes. Sometimes they come locked, so if you cannot move them, press L on top of them so they are unlocked. Rotate them. And some character sheets like Fate, in this case, is ready to use. So you just do your stuff here and write it down here. There's not going to be any special automation, so you're assumed to roll dice by yourself. But this is a useful character sheet that you can get from any of the workshop systems that have already a scripted or a form-like character sheet. If this doesn't happen and you need a character sheet that's not supported, what you will need to do is take an image or a screenshot of a character sheet that you work out elsewhere. And then you go to Objects, Components, and Tiles. It's here on Custom, Tile, and look for that image. So if I look for some examples, I might have some character sheet examples. Yes, here, for example, an image of a character sheet. And then you just load it. So the tile is like an image or a card. Then you make it big, and that's it. In this case, it's not pre-filled, but essentially I would fill in my character sheets outside. I would take a screenshot of it, and then I load it as a static image in Tabletop Simulator. So you can just get going with a character sheet loaded elsewhere, and then you can just use it normally show it on top of the screen, or even what I wanted to show you earlier, enable the hands properties and then right click, press draw, and then you move around and the character sheet will come all along the way with you. Remember to scale them down, make them smaller relative to everything else in the hand. And this is very useful because you move around your game and you can have at all times the character sheets handy, and that's extremely useful, I find it. So whatever you have in your hands, we're gonna move with you, or you have it somewhere in the table, like I do in some of my games, and just look at it. The next trick is to focus on the parts that you need to access frequently and press Control 1, 2, or 3 like a number. It's gonna save a camera. Then when you're elsewhere, you press Shift 1 or that number and it's gonna bring you to this position. So saving cameras is important if you have like multiple areas in your game that you want to frequently come back to. If you press space, it's gonna reset the camera. And the other camera trick is if you press the middle mouse button on anywhere on the screen, you're going to zoom in there. Let me delete this. So if I want to quickly zoom into this PDF over here, I press the middle mouse button and it's gonna zoom in again, like to that point. If I press again the middle mouse button, it goes back to the previous position. So this is quickly super awesome for like moving around your table quite conveniently. So this kind of tricks you need to, with practice they will come, but once you acquire them, it's like supernatural how it comes to you. Next would be, so we dealt with character sheets. It's either Steam Workshop or you load the images. Before I move on, I wanted to recommend you a tool on Windows, at least. It's called Any PDF to JPG. What it does is allows you to load PDF files and then export specific images as a JPEG. And that's useful because you can set high quality image and then you export it into a JPEG and then you load it as a tile. It will have much better quality than if you just take a screenshot of that PDF. So this tool is pretty awesome. I recommend it. It's called Any PDF to JPEG. Let's move to the next topic, which would be dice. Dice, it's part of a standard component. You just click dice here and go to, I don't know, plastic dice, and you can bring all of the dice you want. And then you just select them. If you shake them while holding the mouse button, you're gonna shake them up and then you just roll them as if you were on the table. That's pretty awesome. Another thing is if you just press R while having them selected, they're gonna roll in place. And that's a bit more convenient for me because I don't have to be shaking the mouse and so on, even though it feels more natural. I prefer pressing R and then it's gonna automatically roll in place without me having to shake the dice manually. We've seen a lot. If you're still following over there, the next thing I want to show you is the figurines. This is the next important thing, which is to bring like images that represent characters very quickly. You just load a figurine, then choose an image that you like, choose local, press import, and then you have your character here, which is a very, very quick way to represent a character in the map. Talking about maps, we go to the next step, which is a board. The boards, you want to use the custom board. That's for essentially maps. Then you load the image of the maps that you like, whatever it is. Let me load some combat map for example purposes. Let's say this one. You're gonna have a board map with the, of course, 2D image. Boards are locked by default, so to move them you need to unlock them and then place them, resize them to whatever scale you want, and press lock, and then your figurines, you place them like this and you just play a combat. The tab button is the ruler. If you press and hold, you can measure a distance, and if you press tab only once, you can mark things. This is more for collaboration, but if you're like showing your solo role-playing games in your YouTube channel, you can point out things like this. So with that said, you can also right click, give the figurines a name, and access your character sheets, which is what we did. You can even have cards. To shuffle decks, you want to press the R, like the same button, then use to roll dice. You can shuffle a deck like this, or right click and reset. It's gonna pull all the cards from that deck back into it. Bunch of these tricks, I leave you that to practice and experience. My suggestion is try not to spend so much in like pulling resources and on words. You can spend hours and hours in this. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but just set a limit, because there's so much content here, especially if you get into the workshop. But in practice, sometimes with just a few pawns, you can have plenty of actions without a lot of effort. That's important to find a balance between setup time and play time. So we have PDFs, we have character sheets, we saw combats. Now let's take a look at my setups, so you can see a bit how can you end up with. What you do is, once you set up a game board, remember to save it. And then what you do is load it, play in there. And when you save it again, once you're playing, you don't want to save it under the same name. So leave the original save as a template for your like base, like I don't know, base for Fate games. And then each game specifically one Fate, you save it separately, so you have different games. So some examples of games I played recently is Legacy. I'm gonna show it to you and show you what you can end up with. So here you can see is that I have the map as I showed you. These hex tokens are tiles, so you want to go to custom, bring a tile, and in the tile you can choose the kind of or the shape. So the default is a box, but you can set a hex for it, and then you load the image, and then you're gonna get the tile image. So this you can even resize and so on and put it as a tile. This is, I think, amazing because you can prepare your tokens beforehand, and you can even reshape them if you want to make them less thick, for example. So this is super cool. Remember, pressing Alt will show the image. You can even scale the image if you want to show it or see what's in it. That's extremely convenient. And then once you want to have it fixed, you just press L to lock it and not move it again. You can then give them a name and even a description. So whenever you right click, you can see the description of that specific token. Then the cards, I have some tarot cards, and the character sheets are exactly what I showed you. Some important comments is that you can flip anything really. So you can load an image, for example this one, and have the tiles have two sides. This is pretty convenient to have like cards or tiles on the two sides, and with the F you flip it so you can see both sides of that thing. Of course with the cards happens the same, so you can flip them, place them back on the deck and so on. The other thing is that might happen is that certain sheets will have a number here. When you hover it, like this says 1/2, it means it has two states. So this is important because it's not that it has the two states on both sides, but rather that you need to press 1 or 2 to switch between the two states, similar to the page count. This is important for certain scripted tiles. So if you look for the workshop, you'll see two games I uploaded. One is the plot unfolding machine. Here you're gonna be able to bring your plot, your PUM sheet that I created, so you can fill in the plot nodes and play plot unfolding machine if you like. But I also uploaded MYTHIC. So if you look for MYTHIC, press these 3 dots, search, you will see that I also, for you guys, uploaded the MYTHIC list, so you can play Game Master Emulator by MYTHIC on Tabletop Simulator. So here you just write down your scene stuff, you keep track of the chaos rank and so on. I did this for the community. Please consider, if you like this content, inviting me a coffee down below. I put a link to my coffee page. Donations are really appreciated as a way of liking what I do. So if you're still there with me, I want to show you some advanced tricks and some interesting components that you want to have from the workshop. The first one is the workshop there is one in the one module in the workshop called look for text. It's called Note Cards and Text Editable Special. This, you need to subscribe to this workshop module, and it has something very cool, which is a movable text. It's a bag of things. It also has like some writable note cards, so if you want to play Fate or things that you want to take quick notes, remember, don't use, my suggestion at least, don't use Tabletop Simulator for important stuff, but for small notes you can use this kind of thing. So this module called Note Cards and Text is extremely good because it has this object that you can use for text, and the most important one for me, the one I wanted to show you, is this movable text. You bring a text here, you write something on it, and then, unlike the default text tool, you have a movable text. So much better than the core tool. That's why I suggest don't use this one, use this one instead. And once you can even scale it up, scale it down, right click to edit the text, and then you can even lock it down on a certain position and not accidentally move it anymore. And this is great because you can stick it on other locked objects. So in a way you could also fill in sheets and forms if you like with pieces of text, and this is the third way to write on top of sheets or maps. So this is all the way the best, I think, module I wanted to suggest to you. And as well, you can take a look at the other note-taking mechanisms. Other than that, I just use the default components I just showed you. PDFs are incredibly important. The magnifying tool, use the scripted sheets or for character sheets. Some sheets I do have are uploaded manually from images or for shorter subsets of PDFs. And then, as you can see, you can, let's say with the movable text, write down on these sheets, and you can even reduce them. So you can, like, for example here, play around specific kinds of text. With right click, color tint, you can color the text, I think. Okay, no, not here. Color black. And you can kind of write quickly in certain sheets with this kind of things, or use the pen. Remember to scale down the pencil, but you can quickly paint over character sheets. The last advanced trick I wanted to share with you is how could you handle multiple character sheets. Let's say you have, let me load another example of a game. This is my current hard game, and I have 5 character sheets. So I have them laid out like this. Some cheat sheets over here. I can also use the magnifying when I read through them. I have the rules, the rule books loaded here. But what I wanted to show you is, let's say you want to have all of these 5 character sheets without using so much space. I'm gonna make a copy here. Let's say you have 2 character sheets, and you can press Ctrl and then click them both to select them both. Right click on the first one, press Create States. What this will do is combine them into one object, and then you press 1 and 2, and you will have the 2 character sheets in a single tile. This is super great because with less space, if you want, you can bundle together multiple character sheets or tiles, and then remember each of them will have, in this case, have 2 sides, so with 1 and 2 I can switch. There's other tools you can explore, like counters. There's a lot in Tabletop Simulator. Personally, I'm enjoying it a lot to play because it feels natural. Once you learn all of these shortcuts and stuff I told you, you just really don't spend a lot tweaking it up. The most time you spend is finding the right images for your characters perhaps, or exporting those PDFs into an image so you can load them as tiles. But for booklets and so on, you just load them as PDFs, and that's totally fine. So with that said, guys, I want to leave the rest for you to explore. I think this is a great tool, especially if you play on Theater of the Mind, or if you want to show your actual plays to other people in a YouTube, or maybe you want to have tactical combat. If you ask me, I prefer this currently much better than, I don't know, other VTTs that like mechanize and digitalize and automate stuff. This is like old school tabletop role playing, and there's no limit to what you can play. Once you learn this tool, you can play any games you want. So with that said, this is Jensen Vars. I hope you like this super fast, super heavy loaded content, but you were asking for tabletop simulator setup tutorial. Here it is with these tools I shared today. You have a world to unlock. Thank you guys. Support me if you like. Invite me a coffee. Think about it. And enjoy solo role playing. Bye bye.